Welcome back everyone, Stéphane here, back for another episode on the French Cooking Academy, and this is recipe number 2 on how chicken serry. The recipe of the day is the poulet basquaise, in French, or called in English a chicken or sauté chicken cooked in a Basque country style. The Basque country is the small region in the southwest of France, the extreme southwest near the Spanish border, and this is where this recipe originated. So the original recipe used 2 flagship ingredients, mainly the jambon de Bayonne, which is like a prosciutto ham, and a specific pepper coming from the little town of Espelette. Of course, I cannot get these ingredients here, so I'm gonna use some bell peppers instead and some prosciutto ham. Now, the interesting thing about that recipe is the way it's made. And on one hand, you're gonna have to cook tomatoes with bell pepper, with some smoky spices, plus the ham, and make some kind of a confit of vegetable with really low cooking. On the other side, you've got some chicken that's simply sauté in a pan, and when it's done, you mix everything together, add some wine, some stock, and boom, you get an amazingly flavorful recipe. Now let's cook. Now the reason why I choose that recipe today is because we have to make a chicken stock with a tomato intonation, something we haven't seen, and that links to this talk I did on stock on Tuesday. Now for the ingredients, it will be listed in the video description, otherwise it takes too much time to tell everything, but that part here is for the recipe. So I've got chicken thighs here, I've got onions, the bell pepper, garlic, some canned tomato. I will explain why later. This is some white wine, and that is the star of the show, a big slab of prosciutto ham that we're gonna dice to make some prosciutto bacon. Imagine that. This is all dedicated for the stock, so look how simple. Half a carrot, half an onion, a small bouquet garni with bay leaf, thyme and parsley stalk, a tablespoon of tomato paste, about 7 or 8 chicken wings I've chopped up, and half a liter of stock. Easy. Let's make the stock first. And now to make a brown chicken stock. Now this method will show you how to make a tasty brown chicken stock in a minimum amount of time. You start with 1 tablespoon of oils. I'm using peanut oil, and I'm using some chicken wings. Very high heat. And we're gonna brown all this meat. Now I've just turned my chicken to the other side, so I've turned them over, and that's the color you need. I wanted to show you. So when we say brown, it's brown. It's not that color, it's not a lightish blonde color. You want something brown, otherwise your stock will not have enough taste. And now we're talking. Look at that. That's what you want. You see the brown here? As soon as you got that, boom, you put your garlic, half a carrot, half an onion, and you're gonna mix gently with the chicken, and you're gonna leave this to cook for 5 minutes. Beautiful. After 5 minutes, we're gonna add our tomato paste. You can put a bit more, put about basically like a tablespoon, and just mix it around. So it's gonna cook a little bit, and then we're gonna add the stock. The stock to make stock. After a minute, take your half a liter of chicken stock, and it's 2 cups, and boom, in there. And the reason why I'm not using much, that's just 2 cups of chicken stock in here, is because it's gonna take less time to reduce and get that concentration we've talked about. Because if you put a lot, you're gonna be staring at your pan for ages. You can even have a candlelight dinner with it, and we'll still be in front of it in 2 hours. So you don't want that. Phew, we're done. What a noise that stock. So thanks, it's back to the quietness now. I've changed my heat. I'm gonna take the very small one because that needs to go on the simmer to reach the boil. And the last step is to usually add a bouquet garni in there. But a lot of people have been asking me, what do I do if I don't have that? Well, what you do is this. Few twigs of thyme, or maybe a half a tablespoon of dry thyme, put that in there, and 1 bay leaf. Bay leaves, they fall under the rule of less is more, and that's something I've been learning more and more with this cooking. 1 bay leaf can actually flavor up to 2.5, maybe more liters of water, which is absolutely a lot. So keep this in mind. When this is done, you're gonna cover your stock and leave it to simmer for 30 minutes. And now to start the real recipe, because the stock in effect can be made before. Ideally you want to make the stock beforehand so you don't have to go through all that stuff. That was just the demonstration. We're gonna start by making bacon or prosciutto bacon. We need to do this by the book, so that means we need to blanch the diced prosciutto first. I've diced everything, little pieces here, and we need to add water, cold water first, and bring it to the boil. Now the technique is always you start putting the meat, otherwise you don't know how much water you need, and then you slowly add your water. Once the water is in, put the heat on high and you bring this to the boil. As soon as the water boils, we're going to take it out, rinse it into a sieve, and it's ready to be used. Alright, so now let's see where we are. Let's slow down a little bit and do a bit of a checkpoint. So the prosciutto I was just boiling is here, as you can see it's changed color and is now ready to be used. These are all the ingredients I'm going to need to make my confit of tomato, onion and capsicum. It's going to happen in this pan. And this is my stock, so it was ready. I've just transferred it from that pan, I pass it through a sieve, and this is basically what I get. You see, it's a nice brown stock, it's got a nice color, and you notice there's no salt. Because you never put salt in a stock. So let's start the confit of vegetables. And now for the basquaise garnish, or the confit vegetables. It starts always on low heat, and you start with the prosciutto. So make sure you use always a low heat, and you're gonna leave this to mingle in the olive oil. Add 2 tablespoons of olive oil of good quality, and you're gonna stir this for just a minute. A minute or so later, the flavors have transferred into the pan, into the oil, and this is when you add your onions. And you're gonna leave them in there just a few minutes to really get the cooking started and mingle the flavors again. As soon as the onion have started to cook, we're gonna add our garlic and the bell peppers. And same thing again, leave that to start to cook for a few minutes. I usually do 1 or 2 minutes, that's about the time it takes. And finally, when the smell from the bell peppers start to emerge, you can really, it starts to smell good, you can add your bouquet garni in there, and all of the tomato. I'm using cherry tomato in can, you can use fresh tomato, but I prefer this one because they're really tasty and you get a lot of flavor out of it. So from here, you break your tomatoes. If there's not enough juice, you can add a little bit of water or a little bit of tomato sauce, but not too much. And we're gonna leave this on a very, very low heat to simmer until most of the liquid has gone. And that takes maybe 15, even perhaps 20 minutes, so very low heat. And now for the chicken. Now, my vegetables are simmering here. I forgot to mention you need to add a lid on there while it's simmering nicely on the side. So that's here. And for the chicken, cast iron pan that needs to go in the oven because we're going to cook this in the oven after. So preheat your oven to 396 Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius. And I've got my thighs here. There's salt and pepper on it. Skin first. I'm just going to lightly brown them. The technique used is the sauté chicken. Nothing fancy, we're just cooking pieces of chicken in the pot, just with a bit of color. After a few minutes, your chicken should have a bit of coloration. Turn it over and just leave it for another few minutes in there, and then we're going to finish to cook it for 10 minutes in the oven. You can note that here on the side, I've put my stock to boil so it can thicken a little bit and reduce further. All done. I'm going to now cook this in the oven for 10 minutes with a lid on. And the reason it's only 10 minutes is because after, when we take it out, we need to finish the sauce and continue to cook it for 5 minutes with the vegetables, so keep that in mind. So, chicken is cooking, let's check these vegetables. Alright, looks decent, look at that. Got a nice color, there's still a bit of juice, so we need to leave it to reduce. I'm going to leave the lid open now until the chicken is all done to make sure we lose a bit of liquid. I'm going to discard that. And the bouquet garni because it's been there enough. Alright, so the chicken is out of the oven, nice and tender. It's not finished to cook, but you reserve it on a tray. Okay, and then you're going to remove the excess of juice in that pan, not everything but a little bit. we're gonna make the sauce and it's gonna be ready. And now for the sauce making. Now this is an important part, it goes fast, so you may start to feel really like a cook here, because you have to be ready. The very first step in every sauce in French cooking is to caramelize whatever leftover meat juices you have in a pan. That's what I'm doing here. Medium to high heat, things have to sizzle. Usually high heat is preferred. You leave this to reduce until the oil disappears a little bit and this brown stuff here starts to appear and caramelized. Once you get a nice brownish color but not burned, a whisk is preferred. Half a glass of white wine to deglaze. And with your whisk, you're gonna detach everything. As I said, things goes fast. So again, reduction, very important. You're gonna leave that wine to cook and reduce until it's almost gone. And then we're gonna add the stock. Okay, done. So reduction took me about 5 minutes. And look at this. There's really not much in there. So that's, what, 2 or 3 tablespoons maximum. The big mistake everybody makes all the time is to leave way too much wine in there. So when you reach that stage, it's time to add the stock. Not too much. Same thing. You leave to reduce until we get a napping consistency. Alright, done. So that reduction took me 3 minutes. And what do we mean by napping consistency? Take a spoon. This is the stock. Turn your spoon over, finger. You see that trace? It shows you that the sauce basically sticks to the spoon. So that's reduced enough. We can now add the basquaise vegetable. Now let's add all these lovely vegetables in there. Look at that. And that's cooking. And that's it, guys. We've done it. Look at this sauce. It's not too liquid, it's not too thick, and you got a nice combination of liquid against the hard elements, you know, so you can see it's well balanced. Final step, take your chicken, put it back in with the pieces, and you're gonna finish to cook the chicken gently for a minute, and then we're gonna serve. Okay, hold on guys, I've set up the tables and the question is now how do you serve that kind of southwest of France, with the Basquaise chicken and the chicken from the Basque country? Well, basically this dish is a style called bodega. The bodega from the Spanish name, it's a kind of a tapas bar, it's a low-key bistro style thing with a Spanish intonation, but it's still French. And that's the kind of setup you will have. A bit of rice, a simple glass, you know, and the dish would come on the table looking like this. You have the chicken, and you can really feel that kind of Spanishy intonation here. For the plate, well, basically you're gonna get something like that, very small plate, and then the waiter is gonna come, or you're gonna have just straight with a little bit of that sauce on top, you know, so very generous, big strong flavor. It's bold, it's rustic. It's really good. To finish off, of course, you got the bodega glasses, always a bit of vino in there, bit of white wine never hurts, and then you're done. You're ready to be enjoying that dish. This is how I personally would serve if you have a party. It's a great little dish and great flavor. And look at that sauce. I mean, it's just plain amazing. Look at this. Look at these little pieces. So this is the prosciutto pieces, the prosciutto bacon. Thickness of the sauce. It coats absolutely everything, and you got this intonation, smokiness, pepper, a bit of saltiness, the wine, the stock, it all comes together. But I really think that the prosciutto is the one thing you cannot do without, because it really gives that special taste. But anyway, that's it for the video of the week, guys. I hope you enjoyed. It's a bit of a long process, but made properly, it's a really good one. Thank you, by the way, to all the new patrons. I almost forgot. It's been amazing. I just started and you really responded very well. I will do a special video on this, dedicated on the side, so do not worry. For the rest, I see you all on Tuesday for a regular light-hearted video. Enjoy!